Make sure you put your name, city, and state, alright? Check your name. Put your name, city, and state. Make sure you put your name, your city, and state, alright? Alright, Shalom. Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahweh Shai Baruch Thumb to the brothers. Shalom Yahweh Shamar Alathun Ba'Hashem Yahweh Shai to the sisters. We are the Israelite School Universal Practical Knowledge. Started at the 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under commanding General Yohanan. We are not affiliated with any other Israelite group nor any other Christian organization, alright? Alright? Make sure you sign in and check in. Make sure you put your name, your city, and your state. Baba Kwashai, make sure you put your name, your city, and your state. Alright? Alright, don't forget to put your name, your city, and your state. Alright. Make sure you put your name, your city, and state. Don't forget to check in. Don't forget to sign in. Put your name, your city, and your state. Alright. Alright, so today's the Lashawan Qadash class, alright? Today is the Hebrew class. Alright? Today's the Hebrew class. Can anybody tell me what's today's topic going to be about? Anyone in class? Can anybody tell me? What today's topic is? What's today's topic? Let's see who's paying attention. Let's see. Let me see. What's today's topic? Alright. Make sure you put your name, your city, and your state. Don't forget to check in. Alright? What's today's topic? Can everybody hear me that's online? Everybody hear me that's online? Yeah, I see it's up. Make sure you put your name, your city, and your state. All right. While I'm getting the class set up, I'm going to get the camera facing the board, all right? I'm going to get the camera facing the board, but let me know. Let me know if you guys can hear me. Tawad, just let me know. And also, I want you guys to tell me a little, I want y'all to put in the live chat of how many, give me some verbs that we went over. Probably, I want to say about 2 weeks ago. Last week was the Lord's Passover. The week before that, we went over some verbs. So let me know online, right, or in class, let me know. Give me some verbs that we went over. All right. Let's see. All right. I'm going to get the camera set up. Let's see. Most High Christ. All right, everybody can see the board. Count aloud. Everybody can see the board. Count aloud. That's too wild. Everybody can see the board, right? Count aloud. Okay. All right. So today We're going to be going over the present tense, all right? I wanted you guys to type in the live chat, right, into the chat to see how many verbs you guys know, all right? Or give me some verbs that you guys may remember from the previous Hebrew classes that I went over. If you don't know it, that's fine, it's too wild. But make sure you guys go into your notes this class and let's see what we know and let's see what we can remember, all right? But today, we'll be going over the present tense. All right. So this is what I was speaking about not too long ago. When speaking the Lashawan Qadash, right? Because we kind of went through basic sentence structure. Now we're leaning towards more so somewhat advanced sentence structure, right? But I want you guys, we somewhat build a decent foundation on basic sentence structure. And of course, you guys have studied on your own time, right, to understand the Lashawan Qadash and have a decent foundation. Now, even if you don't have a solid foundation in the Hebrew, you can always ask questions in this class, and I'll thoroughly always explain what's on the board and what's going on. So don't allow this lesson to discourage you. All right? Do not allow this lesson to discourage you. God. All right? All right? So the present tense, all right? You have the present tense, the past tense, and the future tense. The present tense is when you're speaking presently, like how I'm speaking now. Like if I'm speaking the way I'm speaking at the moment, I would use the present tense while speaking in the Hebrew, while speaking in the Lashawan Qadash. So that's why it's also very important to it's very important to understand this advanced sentence structure, because a lot of people may think that, okay, when you're speaking in the present tense, it's only adding like an ing at the end of a verb, when that's not really necessarily the case. As long as you're speaking presently, as if we're speaking like in the now, you would change your verbs into the present tense. You would make sure instead of saying the bar, you would say dawabar, right? But depending on the noun, Salaki, not the noun. I want to say not the pronoun. I want to say it's the object. No, not the object noun. Subject noun, right? Subject pronoun, right? So depending on the subject pronoun being used, right, or the pronoun being used, you would change your verb accordingly within the present tense. So the present tense, when you're structuring these sentences, right, in the present tense, it's not just adding an ing at the end of a word. Like for instance, in the English language, there's a present tense. Let's say I wanted to say I'm running. That's in the present tense. I'm running, right? That ing at the end of run is what makes that verb within the present tense, because I'm doing it in the now. I'm doing it in the present, right? So if I say I'm running, right, I would say, hey, Salaki, I would change my verb. Now let's say I want to say I'm out for a run, right? Right? I'm out for a run, right? There's two verbs being used in that sentence. Of course, I'm out. You would use the verb out, which would be yataza. You would use yataza. You would change that verb into the present tense, but that's not an ing, right? In the English language, you wouldn't say I'm outing for a run. You would say I'm out for a run. That out is still within the present tense. You said that sentence still within the present tense. So in the Hebrew, if that same sentence was in the Lashawan Qadash or the Hebrew, you would still use the present tense even though there's no ing. All right. Let me know if I have to explain that one more time. That's no sweat. But let me know if that makes sense. Kind of loud. Don't forget to put your name, city, and state. All right. All right. All right. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get it on the board. All right. Let me know if you guys have any questions. All right. So what we're going to do, I'm going to write present tense on the board so we know that this is going to be the present tense. Alright? This is going to be the present tense. Alright. Let me see. Make sure everybody can see that. Alright, everybody can see that, I'm sure. So this is going to be in the present tense. Alright? I gotta drink my tea. It's a lucky, I'm a little under the weather. Alright. So this is going to be the present tense. Now I want you guys to pay close attention. So I'm going to use a verb that we went over already. Let's see what I want to use. I'm going to use a common verb. I might use halak. Either halak or yalak. I'm going to say I use halak. Alright. I'm going to use khan. Yeah, I'm going to use halak, meaning to go or to walk. Alright? Let's see. Or maybe, yeah, I'll use halak. Yep, because we went over halak. Alright. Actually, I'm going to say understand, bayan. Yeah, I'm going to use bayan instead. Salak. I'm going to use bayan, meaning to understand. Alright, I'm going to use bayan, meaning to understand. Everybody following, right? Khan, make sure. Alright, so we're going to go over each one. Alright? Now, when speaking in the present tense, there's a subservient tense, and then you have an authority tense, we call it, right? And a position of authority tense, right? So we have a position of authority tense or a subservient tense. That's what we call it. So when we're speaking in the Lashawan Qadash, there is a certain way you speak to the men, and there is a certain way you speak to the women. All right? So I want to explain it better than that. When speaking in the Lashawan Qadash, within our language there's order. Within our language there's order. There's always discipline. Like the Israelites, us so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, if you did not know, we are God's chosen people and we are the Israelites. And within our culture, within our heritage, within our language itself, we have order and we have discipline, right? So within our language, we have order and discipline, right? So there's a certain way you talk to someone in a position of authority, and then there's a way you speak to someone in a subservient sense, right? So, all right? So you want to keep that in mind. Now, this is when speaking to each other. Now, when you're reading the scriptures, at times, because the Lord is speaking to us, because of all Israel is in a subservient position unto the Lord, sometimes, well, majority of the time, the scriptures can be written in a subservient tense. Now, of course, at times, the subservient tense is used to speak to women, right? Because women are in a subservient position, right? In a position to serve. But we also have to understand men can also be in a subservient position too as well when it comes to serving the Lord, when it comes to doing the work of the Most High. So when you're reading the scriptures, sometimes all Israel can be put into a subservient tense. That's why you always see throughout the scriptures the daughter of Zion, or Israel is referred to as a she or a her, right? It's almost like, think about it this way, because we are the Lord's possession, right? The Israelites, we are like the Lord's possession, and anyone's possession is usually a woman, right? Just like, for an example, when you have a new car, you don't give your, no matter if you're a male or female, but this is mostly talking to the men because the men will understand this. When you get a car, you never name your car some guy's name, do you? Right? You never name your favorite instrument a guy's name, do you? No. You always name that instrument, or you always name that car after a woman because it's your possession, it's yours, right? So think of it that way. Sometimes throughout the Bible, Israel is speaking in a subservient tense because we are the Lord's possession, right? And along those lines. It's like like for instance, your car is always a she. Like, this is my baby, she runs well. Think about it that way. Or this is my guitar, I call her Lucille. Ever heard the song back in the day? Lucille? Yeah, that's because we, as men, we would always, our possessions would always usually be a woman, of course, right? So think about it that way, all right? That's why we say it's a position of authority tense and then a subservient tense, all right? All right, so I'm going to get to it. So first things first, we're going to use, okay, I'm going to get it. All right. I'm going to write in the paleo, okay, so we can all understand. All right, so that anya, right? So that anya on the board, that anya on the board could either mean I or I am. All right, make sure y'all see this. All right. All right, so that anya on the board, right? That's anya. All right, this is your I. This is what your I looks like. All right. So within the paleo, within the ancient script, this is what your I will look like. In the paleo, in the ancient script, this is what your na is going to look like. These are connected. All right. That's why you see this little connector. These are connected, meaning that A right here that you see, it disappears. So instead of saying ana, it's on. And this right here is your ya in the paleo. So this is what your ya looks like within the paleo. So this is anya. All right, anya either means I or I am. All right. Now what we're going to do first is the position of authority tense, or sometimes maybe known as the masculine tense. All right. So this is what we're going to do. Anya is I or I am. So the first thing first we're going to do is this is your masculine tense. All right. I'm going to write that at the bottom so you guys know, right, that this is your masculine tense. Now, throughout majority of the time, you're probably going to speak in the masculine tense, and I can break that down to you at times. The majority of the time, you're probably mostly going to speak in the masculine tense. It's rare that you're going to speak in the subservient tense, all right? Unless you know for sure you're talking to a woman, all right? Or you're talking about a woman, all right? All right, it's really an on and off switch on how you want to speak it and how you want to say it, but you're gonna have to know both and listen to both so you can understand. But it's not complicated. It's very easy to understand, very easy to see. Make sure when you're watching class, make sure you sign in. Put your name, city, and state. All right. So Anya is either I or I am. All right. Now, there's a rule. All right. There's a rule, and I'm gonna show you that rule. All right. We're using the verb understand, which is bayan. You can find this verb within the 100 common verbs. If you need this, I've emailed it to people already, but if you need it, just let me know. All right. Let's see. All right. Okay. Let me know if everybody can see what's on the board, all right? Let me know. And don't forget to sign and check in. Okay. So the verb that we have up there is bayan. All right. Bayan meaning to understand, right? So no matter what, I want I want everybody to pay attention to the rule. Does everybody see that rule underneath? Does everybody see that rule underneath written? Does everybody see that rule clear as day written, right? There's a rule written, and it says, right, letter Y goes between first and second letter, right? Letter Y, or the letter Y goes between first and second letter. All right? I made it a little choppy so I didn't have, so it could just be understood. But letter Y goes between first and second letter. This rule for the present tense that's the entire rule. No matter what pronoun is in front, right? No matter what subject pronoun is in front, that Y will always be between the first and the second letter. That's the rule, right? So when you want to, if you're using the pronoun I, the subject pronoun I am or I, when you're referring to yourself, this sentence is saying I understand, right? I understand. You're still speaking within the present tense, like I'm still speaking in the now, telling you I understand. Sometimes people get it confused. In the English language, it kind of has the same rule, right? In a way, and let me explain. When you're speaking in the present tense in the English, to make that verb present tense, you would sometimes add an ing. But in some cases, you don't have to do that, right? This sentence could either mean I understand or I'm understanding. Does that make sense, everybody? This sentence could either mean I understand or I'm understanding. You're still speaking in the present tense and you're still saying the very same thing. It just depends on how it's said. It depends on the context of the sentence. It's not too hard. As long as you understand the rule, the number one rule is that Y always goes in between the first and the second letter. Now, when you're reading the scriptures, right, and when you're reading the Bible, right, in the Hebrew, within the Lashawan Qadash, you are going to see this. You are going to see words like understand. It is not going to look just like a bayan, right? But if you, this is what I was talking about maybe 4 or 5 classes ago. You are going to have to find the root word, right? There's a root word within this verb change, right? To change that verb into the present tense. There's a root word. The root word is bayan. B, right? The ba, the ya, and the na. That's your root word, bayan, right? But right here, that Y in between the first and second letter, it changes that verb to the present tense and it's bawayan. But you're still saying I understand. Does that make sense to everybody? Kind of let me know if I'm confusing anybody. Now, this is what your ba looks like in the paleo. This is what your Y looks like in the paleo. This is what your ya looks like in the paleo. And this is what your na looks like in the paleo, right? And it's bayan, right? Bayan, right? Bayan, right? But now, if you want to make it into the present tense, it's bawayan. So if you want to say I understand or I'm understanding, you would say anya bawayan. You would say anya bawayan. Now, basic sentence structure, you could say anya bayan and you could still be saying the same thing. It still could mean the same thing. But this is more so grammatically correct. And when you're reading the scriptures, when it's written grammatically correct, this is what you're going to see in the Bible. All right? So you would see anya bawayan, right? You would see, okay. You won't actually see the anya all the time. The anya is actually implied. All right? It's almost like Spanish. You don't have to say the nosotros. You don't have to say the yo. You don't have to say the tu or the al. You don't have to say all that. You can just say the verb. Like if I wanted to say, I believe, let's give an example. Yo tengo, meaning I want, right? Yo tengo, I want whatever what I want. Yo tengo, right? I don't have to say yo tengo. I can just say tengo, and it will still mean I want. All right. So the anya doesn't technically have to be there, but for teaching purposes, we're going to teach you, right, what to look for. So this will correlate with this. That's all we're trying to teach right here. This will always correlate with this. This is how you know that this is the subject pronoun being used. When you see this in the Bible, this is the subject pronoun being implied or being used if you see it. So anya bawayan, meaning I understand or I'm understanding. So when using the word, when using the verb in the present tense, and you want to say I'm understanding or I understand, you will always say anya bawayan. You can say anya bayan and still be understood, but the proper way and the grammatically correct way to say that is anya bawayan. All right, anya bawayan. All right, it will be anya bawayan. All right. So I'll explain it one more time just in case. For anyone just coming into class, I'm gonna explain it one more time, all right? All right? This is how you put verbs into the present tense. It's similar to English, but it's not. All right? In the English language, when you want to make a verb, if you want to use a verb in the present tense, you would put a ing at the end of that verb. Like if I say I'm running, if I'm running somewhere, I'm speaking to you in the now. I'm speaking to you in the present tense. So I would say I'm running. I wouldn't say I ran because that's the past tense, right? I'm not telling you I will run because that's in the future tense. I'm saying I'm running. That's the present tense, right? But let's say I'm talking to you and I say I'm out for a run. I'm out for a run. I'm telling you in the English I'm out for a run. That out is still a verb being used. I'm out, I'm outside for a run, right? To be out somewhere. That's a verb, especially in the Hebrew, that's still a verb. There's no ing there, right? But it's still within the present tense. So for an example, which is right here, this is an example of a present tense. This could literally say I understand, which is still speaking in the present tense. Or this could say I am or I'm understanding, but still being spoken in the present tense. It still means the very same thing. I understand, I'm understanding. Depending on the context, depending how you say it, you're still saying the same thing. But you still have to put your verb into the present tense. Remember the rule. The main rule of turning any verb, no matter what the subject pronoun is, you're always going to put the wa in between the first letter and the second. This wa will always be between the first letter and the second. All right. The root word is bayan. Bayan. That's the root word, bayan. Right? If you take that wa out, the root word is bayan. But if you put that wa in between, it's bawayan. But it still means I understand. Right? Or I'm understanding. All right? Anya. Anya is the subject pronoun for I or I am. It's either saying I or I am. All right? Or I'm, for short. All right? That's what anya means. Anya bawayan, meaning I understand or I am understanding. But you're still speaking within the present tense. All right? Now, if I may, you do not always have to use the anya. Think of Spanish. Think of the Hispanic language, right? Or I should say the Spanish language, right? You don't have to say anya. Because in the Bible, you may not always see the anya, but you will see bawayan. The anya is implied. Because no matter what, if the verb is written like this, that means this is the subject pronoun being used. Alright? It's always going to be used. So, anya bawayan. So, if I just say bawayan, so if I said bawayan, it still means I'm understanding or I understand. Alright? It'll still mean the same thing. So if I said bawayan, I'm still saying I understand or I'm understanding. So if I came up to somebody, I was like, okay, alright, bawayan. I'm telling you I understand. Make sense? Alright? Now, Salakia Akwab, it'll take time. This isn't okay, for sure. I'm going to have to go over this again. Alright, I will go over this again. Because I'm going to make it repetitious so we can get this down packed. Because this right here, the present, the future, and the past tense, this is something we have to know to actually read the Bible. Alright, I won't lie to you. You have to know this. So I will go over it over and over again, but we have to know this. Alright? No ifs, ands, or buts about it, Salaki, but we need to practice this. And the reason why we need to practice this is because this is what you will see for sure in the Bible. You will see a whole bunch of letters. Remember, okay, I said this last class too. This is what I was talking about. You'll see this and be like, you might think this is a completely different word, right? You may look at this and be like, hey, this is a completely different word. But it's not. It's still saying bayan. It's still saying I understand. But there's a rule being used in our language on how to, I want to say conjugate the verbs. I don't know if, I think I'm using that right. I think I'm using that correctly, meaning to conjugate, meaning to turn it into a tense. I want to say I'm using the right word, but I'm not going to use it because I'm not sure. Alright? But I think I'm correct. But when that verb is being put into the present tense, this is the rule that's being used. Remember this rule. Letter Y goes between first and second letter. So that Y that you see goes between the first and the second letter. The root word is what? Bayan. That's the root word. When you're reading the Bible and you're reading the scriptures in the Lashawan Qadash, when you're reading it in the Hebrew, you want to look for the root word. That's going to help you read it. Because there's going to be like 3 or 4 letters in the beginning of this, right? Honestly, I might just lie. I can't give you guys an example like that yet. Not yet. A little more practice. But there's going to be a whole bunch of letters in front of certain words, and you're going to be like, why is that there? Is that the entire word? No, it's not. Right? It's not the entire word. Right? You have to find the root word, and every other letter that might be in front can actually be a word. Like the, to. I think we went over this one time in class. If you go into the on the Isupk Virginia page, I made a Hebrew. I forgot what it was called. It's like it's a collection of the Hebrew classes together. Not a watch party. It's something that they call it in on the YouTube. But I put a whole bunch of videos of the Hebrew. All right, go to those videos. All right, let me go ahead and look this up. I'm gonna look it up for y'all. Salaki, I'm gonna do it. All right, that would be the right thing to do. Is look it up. Right, that would be the proper thing to do. So I know, so I can tell you guys exactly what I'm talking about. All right, a playlist. All right, if you go to the Isupk Virginia, No Cowards Virginia YouTube page. All right, you will see a playlist. All right. This playlist has a few videos, right? Which will be, there will be more added videos to this playlist. All right. All right. But watch these videos. Go over these videos. All right. There's about 5 videos up at the moment on that playlist. Watch those videos so you can also have a greater foundation in what's being taught here and what's going on. All right. Because there's a lot of classes that I went over, and it's the basics. All right. This is a little advanced, but we did go over the basics. So if you are having troubles now, you can still attend this class, and I'm going to explain everything. All right. So don't be discouraged on that. I will explain everything, but just watch those videos for sure, because they will help. All right. All right. The Lord said, "Rehearse the righteous acts." All right. So like, can you pronounce it again with the, yeah, right? Bawayan. Anya. So you'll say Anya Bawayan. Anya Bawayan. All right. Anya Bawayan, meaning I understand. All right. Anya Bawayan. Anya Bawayan. That's how it would sound. Remember the rule. Letter Y goes between the first and second letter. All right. All right. And this is in the position of authority tense. All right. All right. I'm going to say, let me write that. I'm going to write that so there's no confusion. All right. Position of authority tense. So if you are speaking in the position of authority tense, this is what you would use. All right. Put this into your notes as an example. All right. Put this into your notes as an example. All right. You don't want to lose this example. All right. Anya Bawayan. Anya Bawayan. Alright? Anya Bawayan. Anya Bawayan. Alright, now. Alright, let's move on to the next one. Alright. There's not going to be too much of a difference, all right? We're going to write it in the subservient tense next. All right? This is going to be the subservient tense. All right. Now, you guys see what's on the board, right? It's really not much of a difference, right? Can y'all, now, it's not much of a difference, right? It's pretty much the same, right? Now here's the rule for this one. All right? Because it's the subservient tense. All right, everybody sees that rule that was updated? Does everybody see the updated rule? All right. Make sure, let me know if you guys see the updated rule. Now, this is the subservient tense, right? So, if you are talking to in a akwa, if you was talking to a woman, right? This would be the tense. This would be the way you would speak to her, right? Now, in some cases, you could speak to a sister in the masculine / position of authority tense. There's no penalty behind that. All right. You're all saying the same thing. All right. It would be of course good practice to try to, you know, how can I say it? You want to get used to trying your best to remember the subservient tense. So when you are speaking to Akwafian and Akwafian only, right, you can use this. All right. So let's say if I was talking to a Akwa, right, and I was speaking to her and I wanted to say I understand, I would say to her, Anya Bawayana. Anya Bawayana. All right. That's the root. The root word is bayan still. All right. So the root word here is still your ba, right? So guess what? The root word is still the same. Your ba, your ya, and then your na. It's still bayan. But now you have a wa here and then a ha here, right? Now you're confused. Now you're wondering what the hell is going on, right? Now you don't understand, like, why the hell is there a wa and a ha, but I see the root word bayan. This is what I was talking about. This is a good example. That is still saying I understand. You will see this in the Bible. You will see this example in the scriptures. You'll see a whole bunch of letters, right? And sometimes you'll see more letters in front of this. Sometimes. You may not. It depends. All right? But you want to look for the root word. You want to get familiar. You want to get very, very familiar. Sorry, I said familiar. You want to get very, very familiar with these words and with these verbs, so you understand so you can find the root word, so you can find the root verb. All right. So this is still saying anya. It's saying anya bawayana. This is in the subservient tense. The letter Y goes between the first and second letter. This rule will never change. The second rule will, depending on what subject pronoun you use. The first rule will never change. Letter Y goes between first and second letter. When it comes to the present tense, the first rule will never change. There will always be a Y in between the first and second letter. That rule is never going to change. But depending on the subject pronoun being used, and if it's either the position of authority of subservient tense, the ending is going to change. All right? Make sense? Kan or la? Let me know. So it still says anya bawayana. You're still saying I understand or I'm understanding. Just you're speaking to a woman. All right? Or you're speaking in the subservient tense. All right? You're speaking in the subservient tense. All right? You'll say anya bawayana. There is no penalty if you say anya bayan. All right? There is no penalty. All right? Of course, you don't want to say, how can I say it? There's no penalty. All right, I'm saying this, there's no penalty. So you can still say anya bayan if you want to. Shalaki, anya bayan if you want to. But this is the subservient tense of bayan. All right, or the subservient tense for the present tense of bayan. It's bawayana. So anya bawayana. All right, bawayana, meaning I'm understanding or I understand. So bawayana. So anya bawayana. If I'm speaking to a sister, I'll say anya bawayana, and hopefully she'll understand, saying I understand. He said I'm understanding or I understand. So if I say anya bawayana, you'll be like, okay, he's saying he understands or he's understanding. Anya bawayana. Right? Anya bawayana. Anya bawayana. Alright. Any questions? Anybody confused? Just let me know. I'll go into greater detail, alright? Alright? But don't let it discourage you. It's very easy to understand once you kind of go over it a few times. Alright? Once you go over this a few times, it'll get a little bit more easier for you. But what you will have to do in this case is you're going to have to go over this on your own time too as well. The Lord says rehearse the righteous acts. So we're going to have to be repetitious on this. Alright, we're going to have to. Alright, we're going to have to be. This is very important to understand. This is very important to know. So we're going to have to be very repetitious when it comes to that, alright? And I mean very, very repetitious. Alright, because it may be challenging to one, and it may be not so challenging to the other. But no matter what, you have to study it. And you have to make it repetitious. Alright? And try your best to commit it to memory. Alright? Alright. Now here we go. Now we're going to change. Now this time we're going to go to the next one, and we're going to change the subject pronoun this time. We're going to change the subject pronoun. I mean, we're going to change this. All right, we're going to change this next. All right. I like it. All right. Here you go. And this is what's next. All right. Now, there's not much of a difference this time, right? Listen, the present tense is the easiest one to learn because there's not too many fumbling and bumbling around. When you kind of get to the future and past tense, it varies. There's still a pattern, but it varies, all right? But for the present tense, it's very, very easy. All right? Because it mostly stays the same. Remember, I told you the first rule will never change no matter how. It's always the ending rule that will change, depending on the subject pronoun being used. And depending on, right, on what type of tense it is. If it's speaking in the position of authority or the subservient tense. Right? When it comes to the present tense. All right. So what we have here is a tha. You have your right here, your tha, and then your ha. Put it together, that's a tha. A tha means you. So a tha is the subject pronoun being used. A tha. A tha means you, and that's the subject pronoun being used. It's a tha. Alright, a tha. Then you have bawayan. You have your ba, right? And then you have your wa, then you have your ya, and then you have your na. Right? Put it together, it's bawayan. The root word is still bayan, meaning to understand. Right? This still means the same thing. Right? Understand. But this time you're saying you understand. Right? So now you're saying you understand. Right? You understand in the present tense. So atha bawayan means you understand. Now, depending on how it's said, it could be a question, it could be a statement. All right? That just depends on how you voice it. All right? So when we even in the English language, when we okay, I don't want to almost say that. I mean, actually, yes. So when speaking in the English language, there are sometimes sentences that don't have your when, where, why, or who, right? To make you understand if it's a question or not. If the sentence is supposed to be a question or not. In this case, right, in some English cases, sometimes there is no where, when, who, and why. All right? To make it a question. Right? But based off of how you speak it, based off how you voice it, based off of your expression, based off the context, you'll be able to understand, hey, is this saying, is he or she asking me, I understand? Or are they saying, okay, you understand? Right? It depends. Everybody gets that? So if I said atha bawayan, depending how I voice it, would be either a question or a statement. I'm like, okay, atha bawayan. That's me telling you, based off my context, when I say, hey man, you know what? Atha bawayan. That's me making a statement. You understand. But now, if I said atha bawayan, right? I'm like, atha bawayan, right? Like you kind of hear the difference in my voice, atha bawayan. That's me saying, okay, you understand, I'm asking you, you understand? Like atha bawayan, like I'm asking you this time, you understand? It just depends on how you express yourself, how you voice it, how you say it. Depends if it's a question or a statement. All right? So also keep that in mind when it comes to the Hebrew language, when it comes to the Lashawan Qadash. It all depends on how you... Okay, Spanish is the very same way. Depending on how you say it is what you're saying. A lot of languages are like that too. It's not just the Hebrew. All right, but a lot of languages are like that. Depending on how you say it, how you voice it, how you express it, the hand signs that you use, and the facial expressions and your hand gestures, all that plays a part on how to communicate and what's being said. That's in a lot of languages. Well, guess what? It's in our language too. It matters on how we express it. It matters what hand gestures we use. It matters what facial expressions we use. So we understand the context of what we are saying to each other. So just don't say something so bland and expect us to understand what you're saying. You don't want to do that. You want to change that. All right? That will help. That's also brotherly and sisterly to help others understand what you're trying to say if you're just speaking Hebrew to them. Right? Everybody understand that? So it does matter on the context, meaning what facial expressions you use, what hand gestures you use, and body language, all of that matters. All right. So ata bawayan, meaning you understand. All right. In the present tense, in the position of authority tense. Ata bawayan. So ata bawayan. Ata bawayan, meaning you understand, or asking a question. You understand? Ata bawayan. All right. Here we go. All right. Let's see. Let's get to it. All right. And let's change the tense to subservient. All right. Now, since you guys have been watching this, you guys will start, hopefully you guys can kind of see the pattern, right? Hopefully you guys can see the pattern going on here. All right. Hopefully y'all can see kind of the pattern on what's going on. All right. So here we go. Now we're going to see how to say it in the subservient tense. All right. So it's the very same thing, right? Just atha in the beginning now. Atha boyana. You're still saying you understand, just in the subservient tense. Remember, the first rule will never change. Letter Y goes between first and second letter. That Y will always be between the first and second letter. That won't change. But depending on the subject pronoun being used, the ending can change. That's why I said add ha at the end of the verb, because that's the verb. Bayan is the verb. All right, bayan meaning to understand. So this is saying you understand, but in the subservient tense being used under the present tense. All right, or the present tense in the subservient tense. Atha bawayana. All right, you would say atha bawayana. Right, atha bawayana, atha bawayana. Right, now, once again, you don't have to say atha. That's not technically necessary. Just like in Spanish, just like in, I want to say almost any Latin-based language, I want to say, you can just say the verb and it's understood. I want to say in English is one of the languages that you have to say I or I am or you or he or she, all right, because it's not implied, all right? It's not implied because the verbs are just the verbs. There's no real way to identify if it's talking about you position of authority tense or you subservient tense, and it doesn't really distinguish. There's no way to distinguish if it's he or she or you or I. But within our language, just like in the Spanish language, it's almost the same. There's a way, the way our verbs are written when you turn it into the present tense under the subservient tense and all that good business, there's a way to tell if it's using atha or not, or if it's using I am. It depends. It also depends on the context. Sometimes you may have to use atha so you know that I'm not saying I am. It just depends on the conversation. It depends on the context. It depends on your facial expressions. It depends on your hand movements and your hand gestures. It depends on your body language. All of that counts. All right? All of that counts Do not, all of it counts. Keep that in consideration. All of that does count. So, atha bawayana. But let's say if you just want to say bawayana, you're still saying you understand. But now, take in consideration, depending on the context, you can say I'm understanding. Right? If you just say bawayana. You can also be saying I'm understanding. Right? It just depends on the context, all right? Everybody does understand that, right? Context is everything. It just depends on the context. It really, truly does matter on the context of the sentence and the facial expressions and your hand gestures, your body language, etc., etc. It really does matter, all right? But just technically speaking, you don't have to say atha bawayana. You can still say bawayana. But just take in consideration, right? Sometimes you may have to say atha bawayana, so you're not confusing the brother or sister that you're talking to, because bawayana by itself can also mean anya bawayana, because it's still conjugated the same way, or it's still changed the same way. Everybody understand that, right? Kana la. Alright? Salaki. Let me know. Alright? But the first rule, no matter what subject pronoun you use, alright? Because you is the subject pronoun. Alright? And then this is the verb being used. Alright? So, atha bawayana in the subservient tense. Alright? That's saying I understand, or, it's like you understand, and you are understanding. Alright? Oh, Salakia. I also wanted to say that. Salakia. Atha, in this sentence, okay, in the English language, right, there is no R. There is no A-R-E. It's invisible, right? It's implied. In our language, there's no way to say R, A-R-E, but it is implied, all right? Like if I say you are understanding in the present tense, this would still be you are understanding. Atha bawayana. I'm still saying you are understanding. Alright? But there is no R. Alright? We keep that in mind. R is invisible, A-R-E. So sometimes, let me just write that so you guys can put that into your notes. It can either mean you are. Alright? Alright? That R implied. Alright. Put that into your notes. Make sure you guys put that into your notes. Alright. Let me know if y'all see that? Yeah, you guys can see that perfectly. Most High Christ. I think y'all can see that. Let me know if y'all can see that. Alright. But you are. A thought can be you or you are, depending on the context, but that R is most definitely implied. Meaning, there is no real word in the Hebrew to say that. It's just implied, alright? It's implied. It's there. That's more so English, alright? Anagalia, right? If you don't know, that's English in the Hebrew. If you want to know how to say English in the Hebrew, it's anagalia. 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 Right? I always say this all the time, Anya la'a doabar anagalia. I say that all the time. I don't speak English. But that's neither here nor there. Alright? But R is implied. Alright? The R is implied. Alright? Anya la'a doabar anagalia. I say it a lot sometimes. Alright? I don't speak English. Anya la'a dawabar anagalia. And that's in the present tense. When I said that, by the way. You can use any verb, by the way. I may have not said that. It doesn't matter what verb you use, by the way. You always do this. No matter what verb you use. A verb, one of these verbs can have 18 letters attached to it. No matter what, that Y will always be between the first and second letter. Alright? And no matter what, if it's in the subservient tense, make sure you add that ha at the end. No matter what, it can have 1,000 letters attached to it, and that's the verb. Alright? I'm over exaggerating. But let's say there was a verb out there that had like 20 something letters. Alright? Alright? You'll no matter what, this rule still stays the same. Anagalia meaning English. So when I said Anya la'a dawabar anagalia, meaning I don't speak English. So Anya meaning I am, Anya I am. La'a meaning no or don't. Right? La'a means no or don't, depending on the context, right? Dawabar. Dawabar is the present tense for to speak or speak. Instead of saying dabar, I'm saying dawabar, right? Because I'm putting it in the present tense. In anagalya, that's English in the Hebrew, English, right? Anagalya. So anya la'a dawabar anagalya, all right? So anya la'a dawabar anagalya. I don't speak English, even though I do. Oh yeah, I do speak English, but I say that as a joke sometimes to people that I don't want to talk to, especially Edomites. I'd be like, anya la'a dawabar nagalia. I almost just said la'a because you don't have to say the anya. I can literally just say la'a dawabar, and that still means the same thing. By the way, Akwa. That's what I was getting at. Sometimes I do that. All right, you've seen how I stuttered because I didn't want to use the anya there. But if I don't have to use the anya, I can literally say la'a dawabar anagalia, and it will still mean the same thing. I don't speak English. Alright? So anya la'a dawabar anagalia. Alright? Sometimes I say that to Edomites out on the street. Sometimes I say it, I'm like, Salakia. La'a dawabar anagalia. I don't speak, they don't know what the hell I'm saying. Because that's the point. I don't want to talk to you. Alright. That's another gift of learning this language. You don't have to talk to people. You can only talk to who understands you. Everybody understands? That's a beautiful thing. That's something that we have to understand too. That's what makes this language so beautiful. Because we can talk to each other. Right? We can communicate with each other. No matter, okay, it was very big to speak Hebrew during the time of Christ. It was a very big thing. Alright, I may go over it one of these days to understand why it was so big. Alright, it was so big for you to speak Hebrew because it was a lingua franca, right? Which means it was a language that was spoken. Okay, it was a common language spoken by everybody, which is the Hebrew language. Now, of course, when it says that, it's really referring to the people that spoke Hebrew, right? So, for an example, if you speak Spanish and I speak English, right? So, if you speak Spanish and I speak English, or let's say you speak Creole and I speak English, or you speak Patois or I speak English, right? We can't communicate with each other because you speak Patois. I can't understand you. You can't understand me. You speak Creole. We can't communicate because I can't understand you, nor can you understand me. You speak Spanish, and I only speak English. We can't communicate because I can't understand you, nor can you understand me. But because we are all Israelites, and because we speak the Lashawan Qadash, because we all know how to speak our native tongue, which is the Hebrew, now we can communicate, even though we speak two different languages. Everybody understands that, right? This happened plenty of times in the New Testament, especially when devout men came to Jerusalem to do the Passover. We all came from different places. So we all spoke differently. We all spoke different languages. Paul spoke Greek, Latin, and Hebrew. Right? The Jews either spoke Greek, Latin, or Hebrew. Right? But the main foundation of all the Jews was the Hebrew. We all understood our language. So it was like a common ground for us to speak to each other. And that's also how you could also tell of, okay, that's my people. I can hear you speaking Spanish all day, but once you start speaking Hebrew, that's one of the signs to be like, okay, he's an Israelite. He's my people, based off the language that you speak. Everybody gets that, right? I tell people all the time in class, especially in the Hebrew class. The language that you speak is one of the main characteristics that tells you apart from other races of people and other nations of people. Because you speak Latin, let's say we're talking about the times of Christ. If you spoke Latin, right, that doesn't necessarily mean you are Roman, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that, right? But if you did speak Latin, you are attached to the Romans. So you could be considered a Roman, right? It's just one of the characteristics. But let's say you speak Latin, right? And then you start speaking Hebrew. Then you start to question that man or woman like, wait a minute. He was just speaking Latin, but now he's speaking Hebrew. Okay. Well, he kind of... Now here's the other characteristics come into play. Well, he does look like an Israelite. Yeah. Them lips and them noses does look like an Israelite. Them eyes, yeah, that's those some Israelite eyes. That hair, yeah, that's some Israelite hair right there. Yeah. The way they dress, the way he dressing, I mean, Israelites do dress like that. I must be an Israelite. He may speak Latin, but he's an Israelite. Everybody understand? Kind of loud. It's almost like that, all right? This happens all the time in other races of people too, all right? Be based off the language you speak. In some cases, you can be associated with that nation, but that's not necessarily your nation, all right? So it's also important for us to have our own language so we know what nation we can attach ourselves to, which is the Israelites. All right. If you are so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American, you are God's chosen people. You are the Israelites, and you are to come into class every Friday and learn your culture and learn your heritage and learn the traditions passed down from the Lord, so we can be our own nation again. So we can be our own race of people again. That's very important. That's a very important thing that we have to understand. Okay? Is we need to be our own. We have to stop being a part of everybody else. We have to be of our own. Alright? We need something that's only ours for once. We need that. Every other race has it on the earth. Every other nation has it on the earth, so why can't we? Alright? Why can't we? Why can't we have a language of our own? Spanish isn't our language. That's the language of our oppressor. English isn't our language. That's the language of our oppressor. Creole is not our language. That's broken down French. It comes from the French. Right? That's the language, that's the French language. That's the language of our oppressors. That's not our language. Alright? Alright, patois, I think that's broken down British and French combined, if I'm not mistaken. Right? That's the language of our oppressor. That's not our language. Every other nation and race of people has a language of their own. Why can't we? The Africans have their own language. There are over 50 countries in Africa, and all of them speak different languages. Even though they all come from Africa. There's over 50 countries in Africa, and they all speak different languages and dialects. So why can't we have our own language? Even certain Africans have different languages. The Nigerians don't speak what the Ghana people speak. They're two different languages. Even within Nigeria, they speak. You can be Nigerian and still speak two different languages. You have the Igbo language and the Yoruba language. They're two different languages. Alright? And they separate themselves from tribes. They may be Nigerian as a whole, but they separate themselves as tribes. And they have different dialects of their language, I should say. It's a different dialect. It's a similar language, but it's a different dialect. In some cases, it's a total different language. It just depends. So why can't we have our own language? All right. And don't worry about it. We also have our own dialects too in the Hebrew. All right. Like for instance, I say Dawada. Captain Mashak may say Tawada. All right. That's a dialect. Depending on your accent and depending where you're from, that's a dialect. All right. You may say certain things differently than others. All right. But you're still saying the same thing. I say Dawada. Captain Mashak may say Tawada. It's still, he's still saying Tawada. It's just the dialect that he's speaking in. All right. It still means thank you. All right. Everybody understands? Make sure you guys put this into your notes. There's still more to learn on the present tense, so we're not done here. But we'll also do a recap next class too. All right. All right, don't forget that. All right. All right. Remember, put this into your notes. Asa bawayana is the subservient tense. Remember, I also sent this in class before too as well. I also sent this into one of the classes. I sent emails and documents and PDFs. Study those. Study them. Do your best to be repetitious here. All right. It just gets more informational from this point on. But you want to build yourself a foundation. All right. And you're not going to be able to build yourself a foundation just coming to class every Friday. All right. Don't think, listen, Salaki, I thought that for like 2 months. I could just come to the Hebrew class every Friday and catch on. Nah. All right. It doesn't work like that. It never did. It never will. All right. Don't expect it to work like that. All right. Don't be that one brother, that one sister that thinks that you can just come to class every Friday and expect to catch on. Don't be that one brother, that one sister. I was one time that brother, and I regret it. I regret it because I'm like, man, I can't retain nothing. It's because I wasn't studying. I was just studying on Friday when I should have been studying Sunday through Sunday. I should have been studying 7 days a week. I should have been rehearsing the righteous acts every day. I should have been being repetitious every day. Everybody understands? So make sure those documents and those PDFs that I sent, all right, if you still need them, let me know. I did send them to the majority of the class. All right, I think I did. All right. All right. All right. Any questions? Kanala. Make sure you put this into your notes. All right. Make sure you put into your notes. Babu Kwashah, put into your notes. Also, this is also in one of the PDFs and documents, by the way. I forgot to mention that. Salaki. It's most definitely there. All right. It's most definitely there. These tenses are there, so you can go over them on your own time too as well. All right. coming towards the end of class. Put your final notes in. If you have any questions, please ask. All right, please ask. Do not be afraid to ask. Doesn't matter what time it is. We'll get to your question. All right, we most definitely will. So please ask. All right, no questions? All right. With that, we'll get the announcements. All right. ISUPK security announcements. We are the ISUPK. Start at 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yohana. Rule for new brothers and sisters. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to share themselves with the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There is another 6 months in which the brother and sister will court each other. After this 6-month period, the brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment. Numbers 18:21, Malachi chapter 3 verses 8 through 10. Ma'ashara means tenth in the Hebrew, 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you. Give to treasury department or teacher. Priest fund, free will offering for priest, not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you would like. Upcoming holy convocations. All right, we're still in the Feast of Unleavened Bread. All right, the closing is tomorrow. All right, so keep eating that unleavened bread until tomorrow. All right. With that, I'll say Amadiu, which means to stand. Men of Israel, we're going to give a curse salute to the brothers. Men of Israel, Ma'am Shabbat, Amadiu, Barak, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua B'Kathah, Yana Matah. Men of Israel, Sar La'akwafim, which means turn and face the sisters. Men of Israel, we're going to give a curse salute to the sisters. All right. Men of Israel, Ma'am Shabbat, Amadiu, Barak, Yahweh Shema Alathan Ba'ashem Yahushua. Yana Matah. With that, class dismissed.